Okay, I am going to share how this particular attorney, which I like her channel. I actually like her channel. She's been probably one of the many, only one out of the many, who are actually on the up and up. And they all are basically YouTubers. Like she said, tomorrow she gets a day off because there's not court. It's like, okay, apparently you don't have a practice because your whole job and career is analyzing stuff, getting tips from people during your live streams, and basically giving legal analysis to the public. So here's why, and I'll just share with you who I am. I am not a licensed attorney, but I did go to law school. And I do have legal research skills, which pretty much there are some things when you research that, you know, judges and federal judges can go back and forth and argue on an interpretation. Legal analysis is not always an easy or black and white thing. But there are some statutes that even an elementary school kid can understand, that is clearly written, and you don't need an attorney to explain it to you, such as the statute that Turtle Boy did in fact violate. It states in their town of Kenton that you cannot picket witnesses within, I believe it's 500 feet of the courthouse during trial. And the purpose of that particular statute that they created was to protect the witnesses from intimidation. So what they're claiming is like, well, he was charged with intimidation and it's a constitutional right, it's free speech, and, you know, just because they don't like what he was saying. Okay, technically, if you go online and you're saying things about people and it's your opinion, that is free speech. But that's not what the charges were about. He was on the courthouse steps. There's videos of cops are right there when all those people were booing. They were reaching over, leaning down, and booing the family members and the witnesses as they approached the doorstep. Now, the problem that I have with their charges is the fact that I call it what is determined to be a setup from the get-up. What I mean it's a setup from the get-up is because you will see in the video, in some of them, that the cops are standing right there, as if they're guarding these protesters to not get out of hand. But in fact of the matter, these officers, when they see a crime being done in their presence, they are to immediately deter the behavior or make arrests. That's per their own statutes. You can look it up. So when they see people violating the statute of them standing on the courthouse steps, and they are holding signs and booing the witnesses as they're arriving, that is a crime per their own local ordinances. Now, people don't have to agree with the local ordinances. Maybe they feel that those local ordinances are a violation of the Constitution. But as a legal researcher, I have read many cases. They have gone all the way to the United States Supreme Court, where towns and cities, when they create laws that control picketing, meaning, you know, that they have, sometimes you're required to get a permit before you can do a protest or a march. You literally have to get approval, you know, give notice or something like that, just so I guess law enforcement can be aware of the situation. For whatever reason they create them, and this particular type of statute where you cannot do it within so many feet of a courthouse, the federal courts, including the United States Supreme Court, have upheld that it is their right, as long as it serves a legitimate government purpose. And they do not strike down those types of statutes because they're not allowing them to protest. They're just controlling when and where they can do it. It's just like you can't let people go out in the streets and block traffic with their signs. And you see a lot of that going on in America in recent years. People going out in traffic and blocking the streets. So a lot of legislators in states that didn't wisely already have laws preventing such behaviors created laws because of those massive protests that were in fact blocking traffic. So they do have statutes, and that is one of the statutes that turtle boy, Mr. Aiden Kearney, did violate. And I believe that they set them up, meaning they allowed these people to do this for a period of time, to act like it wasn't illegal when they in fact had a duty to say, listen, we have a statute that says you cannot picket within so many feet. Unless the situation is that they created that statute after the protests start. If they created a local ordinance after the protests start, then they weren't in violation at that time. But they have cops on the steps. And then you'll see a video, if you go to YouTube, the YouTube channel of Mr. Aiden Kearney, and you will see after he was charged, then you'll see videos of the cops pushing them back even further because he was saying that these people in this video were not far enough away from the courthouse. So it was in that video they were showing themselves as enforcing the statute. They probably got a lot of heat for not enforcing it to begin with. So when they charged him with intimidation of witnesses, it was because of the statutes. But they do have other charges when they was approaching them in the ball games and stuff like that. And there was, I think some of the charges are probably bunk. Like, for example, the Motor Vehicle Division conspiracy to get information that is protected. So they're charged him with, he was proving that there was a connection between people by having pictures and videos of the car, and he proved who that person was connected to. They're accusing him of knowing who owned that car by conspiring with somebody from the Motor Bureau of Vehicles to get information that was protected, that you can't just call somebody up and say, hey, here's this tag number, who owns this car, you know, and they're accusing him of having done that. What I don't see is that that person that he allegedly conspired with is also charged. But the discovery, as far as I know, has not been released. And so if that person, if that even happened, then maybe that person cut a deal with the prosecution. How would they know, though, unless that person went to the DA and told on him? Or maybe somebody else informed the DA that that's what was happening or something. We don't know how they came to those charges, but that's what one of the... So they're just, all of these lawyers, especially this one right here, she's talking about specifically his charges and saying that the charges are not valid. And I'm like, okay, you obviously didn't read the charges, because she's not aware that he was also charged with wiretapping and eavesdropping statute, which that sounds like he was like eavesdropping, but that's not what that statute also includes recording phone calls without consent of all parties. In 95% of all the states in America, just so you know, is a one-party state. I live in a one-party state. Now, if I get a phone call, let's say from a business, and, you know, I'm entering into some kind of contractual agreement, I always record those calls. But I do make sure I know where the call is coming from so that I can check and make sure they're not in an all-party consent state. Okay? And that's what anybody needs to do if you ever want to record a phone conversation. So he's in Massachusetts, and he's calling these people up in his live stream. In his live stream, he's literally committing crimes in videos on his live stream. And he probably didn't know. He probably didn't know he was committing crimes, but he was. He was calling the witnesses in his live stream, okay, and recording it. And one of actually the more interesting phone calls, one of the witnesses, I believe it was Jill Daniels, called him back. Sounded like she was drunk or something, but he's calling them, they're all ranting, and he is recording them. And it doesn't matter that he told them. It doesn't even matter if he gave them notice that he was recording. If they don't consent to that recording, it violates their statute. But when she called him back, and he had already told her that he was recording, and then she slipped up and put John O'Keefe in that house, I think that that particular phone call is admissible because she called him back. Okay? And he did say in the phone recording that he was recording. Okay, that didn't give him consent. But when she called him back, okay, after he said that he was recording, that kind of puts it over into that could potentially be admissible content. If not in the state of Massachusetts, I think it could be in federal court if the feds decide to prosecute. I think that they could win on an argument in that. But the bottom line is, lawyers, just because they're lawyers, it doesn't mean everything they say is right. And I do have issue with lawyers who go online and they make a living off of people who are going to them as lawyers and they want their questions. They've got questions about the case and they'll like pay them $5, $10, $20 or whatever, and whoever donates to them gets their question answered. Okay, that is giving legal advice to public for money. So these lawyers need to be really careful. And I did say, listen, if you do not correct your position, I will file a bar complaint. Because this is a danger to people in the public to have these lawyers on YouTube, you know, not even bothering to read the charges. She doesn't even know that he was charged with eavesdropping. And so I'm like trying to be nice because I actually really like her channel. But Jeff, her moderator, is just a complete, he acts like a troll. I'm gonna banhammer you. I'm like, okay, you're talking about this DA controlling people's speech, and then when somebody's trying to point out a legitimate warning about the laws that this lawyer is obviously missing, and you want to troll me? Excuse me, you're the troll, and she needs a new moderator. She needs to talk to Jeff. She needs to have a talk with him. But before she does anything, before she keeps with her YouTube job, she needs to go and actually pull those records. And if you will see in my videos, when I look at a case, I go to the records. I go to the court records. It's just like this Burmese case where this refugee there were some suspicious things going on in that case. Okay? And I went and got the appeal record so I could at least have the court statements of what the facts are. Okay? And to know what statutes that they're using. She has no idea what statutes Lally is charging this guy with. She has no idea. It's so obvious she's not even bothered to read the cases. But yet she claims, after I'm pointing stuff out, that she looks into stuff. I'm like, okay. So then why are you telling people that it's legal to record phone calls in the state of Massachusetts? And so you know, it doesn't matter if you are in another state, because a lot of legislators in these states who have all consent parties, okay, if you're calling from another state, they can still charge you, even if your state allows recording. So you need to be careful about recording people. Now, I'm not talking about recording people in public. Now, they can create statutes that disallow that also. And some states do, and I think that's egregious, but they do. But I'm talking specifically because I've read his charges. He was charged with the eavesdropping, wiretapping statute. And it sounds like he was spying or something, but that's not what that statute is referring to. It's referring to him calling witnesses. And as far as the witness intimidation, you have to look at their local laws. Yes, we are protected with free speech, and journalists have a right to go onto their platform where they're sitting and make opinions, just like I make opinions, okay? And I do say Lally should be arrested. Those cops should be arrested. The FBI is failing their duty to arrest them. This judge, I believe, is extremely biased, and she, you know, I'm going to say these things, and I don't care if they don't like what I'm saying. I will say these things. But I'm not going to call these people and record the calls because I know better, right? And apparently, let this be a lesson to Turtle Boy, but it bothers me when you have a licensed lawyer saying that he didn't do anything wrong. So people, just be careful. Because somebody is a lawyer, it doesn't mean what they're saying is true. And I think it's egregious. And I'm going to keep calling these lawyers out, and I'm going to demand that they correct themselves, and I'm going to demand that they actually read the charges so that they can know that, yes, it is in fact a crime in the state of Massachusetts to call and record somebody. And if you keep telling people that that's not a crime, I will report you to the bar for encouraging people, soliciting them that they can commit crimes with no consequences. Because that violates bar ethics. You can't do that.